In tonight's special report, Colorado's new assessment standards are the source of an explosive debate, actually among parents, teachers, and state administrators regarding our education system.
Here are the facts first. Colorado adopted Common Core standards in 2010 with more than 40 other states across the country. Since then, several states have dropped out. Colorado chose to add an additional 15% on top of the core. Now, this is the first year Colorado will test Common Core standards. Pearson Access is the group organizing testing practices called PARC, or Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. Now, students will test twice a year. Fox 21's Craig Coffey breaks down this controversial plan. Craig.
Well, Lauren, there is a major campaign to reverse Common Core within our schools as parents speak out with concerns of unhealthy secrecy, intrusive data collection, pressure on students and schools, and big money behind molding our children's learning potentials. Many educators too afraid to comment, fearing corporate backlash, but we managed to sit down and get some answers on Common Core with a couple of people involved in the process. A new set of standards, new ways of teaching, learning, and testing, putting kids from state to state across the country on the same educational path for assessment. Common Core is becoming more of a common concern. And for the millions of parents and many educators in positions where they can't speak out, Larry Marcus, with 3 kids in James Irwin Charter School, shares a common voice.
We do have a say in how and what and why you teach our kids.
Director of Assessment for District 11, El Paso County's biggest school system, Eric Mason says the standards of the past weren't the worst, but spiral.
Teachers found themselves teaching the same things over and over and over again, year after year.
I have a lot of problems with these standards. I think that is going to, in effect, dumb them down.
I understand that fear that we're taking the standards and bring them to the lowest common denominator. I would just argue that that is not the case, because we're challenged by these new standards.
The word challenge, a key point of contention for those having to enforce these standards and those not accepting the new process.
There'll be a lot of focus on critical thinking, problem solving, asking students to look at not just can you calculate this in your head or on paper, but can you figure this out in real life?
They make it sound great and they make it sound like it's so rigorous and the students are going to learn so much, but they're more concerned with the process than they are the right answer.
Here's a look at a sample math question through Common Core versus traditional problem solving. 26 plus 17. The old way lets students add numbers and get your answer, 43. The new way has instructions, a longer, out-of-the-box approach to reach the same conclusion. Add 26 plus 17 by breaking apart numbers to make 10. Use a number that adds with the 6 in 26 to make a 10. Since 6 plus 4 equals 10, use 4. Think 17 equals 4 plus 13. Add 26 plus 4 equals 30. Add 30 plus 13 equals 43. So therefore, 26 plus 17 equals 43. So a major area of concern for parents is having their kids opt out of this testing assessment. Now, the concern is with so much time and resources given to kids during prep work before the actual testing, what happens to students' other educational choices during this same time?
That's the balance. That's the biggest concern, absolutely. And that's the thing that both our principals and our teachers have to be increasingly aware of. Not teaching to the test, teaching to the standards.
Parents and students can choose to opt out of testing, but school records will reflect negative scores.
There are no penalties for parents to opt their children out of testing. None. However, schools do feel that opt out because the state does judge our performance based on participation. How many students took the test? Because the federal law says test all children. And so we have to reach a 95% testing rate. And if we don't, it can hurt our school performance framework, yes.
A lot is at stake. School status, proficiency ratings, funding based on these rankings and numbers, teachers' careers.
Well, if a school falls below a certain level, it starts a clock. And when that clock ticks year after year, if you can't get your performance rating up, there are some pretty significant penalties that can be put in place by the state, such as taking over that school. And we don't want that clock to start on any of our schools because of participation. So certainly opting out does have an effect on schools. We just have to be very cognizant of the fact that the state is watching because of the federal law.
I urge people to do their research, to make the decision for them, but make the decision. Don't let the government or don't let somebody else make the decision for you.
We are in a massive transition time. Everybody's going to have to take a look at what happens this year with this first big part test and take a step back and recalculate how we teach and how we educate our students and how we assess them.
Now, we should mention that District 11 requested a testing waiver for its students concerned with the amount of testing driving decisions locally and pressure on its teachers. They were declined by the state. If you'd like to voice your concerns both for or against Common Core, we will have a link on our website for the state's Common Core Task Force, state legislators, and the survey you can take about testing in our schools. Joe and Lauren, back to you.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around that math problem.
I'm still working on getting 43. I'm almost there,
I'm sticking
Craig.
with my old way.
Jeez, that's amazing.